lot of people think that digital currencies are something for the future, but this is how prevalent digital currencies are already today. Little old ladies in China are using them. My friend Dawn was just traveling through China recently, and while she was in Beijing, she was walking down the street, and she saw a little old lady selling fruit by the side of the road. She walked up to her, she picked out some fruit, she went to hand over some cash. The lady shakes her head, says, "No cash." Dawn says, "What do you mean no cash? How am I supposed to pay for this?" The lady holds up her phone and says, "Only WeChat Pay or Alipay." Now, that shocked me when I first heard that. And then I found this. These are cashless transactions in China, which in 2015 already totaled $1.5 trillion. That tripled in 2016, it tripled again in 2017, and is projected to triple again by 2021. And the most amazing thing about this entire already existing over $20 trillion industry is that there's not a single bank involved anywhere in the entire process. Now, how did this happen? Well, it happened because every great technology has its moment in the sun. Its mass adoption moment, where it goes from being obscure and in the fringes to something that's valuable and a part of what we do every day. And I'm here to tell you that cryptocurrencies are at that exact moment right now. So over the next few minutes, I want to talk about three things: where we came from and how we got here, why trust is so important to all of this, and what it's going to take to propel cryptocurrencies to the next level. Show of hands, anybody know who that is? Bonus points if you're under 30. No? Well, that's Tim Berners-Lee, and in 1993, he released a piece of code into the public domain that became the World Wide Web and changed everything. I graduated from Queen's University in 1994, and I got into IT just as Windows 95 and the first Netscape Navigator were released. And for the internet, this was its mass adoption moment because it represented, for the very first time, an easy way for people to get online. But even as far as 1998, nobody could imagine things like Uber and Airbnb and the ubiquity of smartphones. And yet, here we are, just 20 years later, and the internet has fundamentally transformed every aspect of society. So paradigm shifts can happen very, very quickly. Similarly, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum are already transforming the way banks and financial markets operate. They're disrupting healthcare and supply chain and digital identity and virtually every other industry. Blockchain and cryptocurrency will have as much impact over the next 20 years as the internet has had over the last 20. Now, if you would have invested $1,000 into Bitcoin back in 2010, you would have had just under $200 million at Christmas. And although it's true that you would have lost about $130 million over the course of this year, you'd still be up about $65 million on your $1,000 investment. It's not too shabby. Now, I hear Warren Buffett and others call Bitcoin a bubble, but when I look at this chart, I'm reminded of a quote, which is, "A bubble is simply any rising asset that you have no position in." So how did this happen? Well, in 2008, world equity markets were cut in half. More than $30 trillion of value was lost, and this led to a significant erosion in public trust. Today, only a very small percentage of people still have faith in government, and it's the same for banks and other public institutions. The crash in 2008 was absolutely acidic to public trust. However, the crash did precipitate one profound event. Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, or they may be, and isn't it amazing that to this day we still don't know the true identity of the creator of Bitcoin? I find that absolutely incredible. But Satoshi Nakamoto, much like Tim Berners-Lee before him, released a piece of code into the public domain that became the Bitcoin blockchain and once again changed everything. And really, it all comes down to trust. I mean, think about this. You can send Bitcoin over the internet to a complete stranger halfway around the world, directly, peer-to-peer, without a third party to validate, and both of you can have complete confidence in the validity of that transaction. In fact, Bitcoin transactions are considered trustless because the concept of trust doesn't even enter into the equation. You cannot claim to have sent it if you didn't. The other party cannot claim to not have received it if they did, because both of you can go onto the blockchain directly and view the confirmed transaction for yourselves. So it's not surprising that, considering where we came from, the crash in '08 and subsequent erosion of public trust, that a currency like Bitcoin that exhibits trustlessness would be a very powerful and alluring concept. But Bitcoin is also decentralized, which means it's completely outside the control of any central bank or government or entity or organization. Bitcoin writes all of its transactions to a public ledger visible by anyone at any time. And Bitcoin's record keeping is completely immutable, which makes it free from fraud or corruption or manipulation or even honest mistake. And it's these qualities, the trustlessness, the decentralization, the publicly available ledger, and the immutability that have really captured people's imagination, and it's the reason why Bitcoin is the furthest thing from a bubble. So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, sounds pretty good. I'd like some Bitcoin. Where do I sign up? Well, unfortunately, there's a problem. And the problem is that the current cryptocurrency exchange industry is lagging very far behind when it comes to things like intuitiveness, usability, security, support, and a whole range of other user experience issues. The current situation is such that only the most technically savvy and determined individuals will ever make it all the way through to the end. Most people simply give up at some point along the way, leaving Bitcoin permanently in the fringes. Currently, less than 2% of investors own any crypto, but over 50% own stock. And the only way to increase ownership levels and grow this market is if we make it easier for people to go online and buy, sell, and trade cryptocurrencies. That's the reason my partner and I created Easy Exchange. Our vision is crypto for all. I mean, if I believe, as I do, that cryptocurrencies are going to change the world, then I want to do everything I possibly can to help facilitate mass adoption. The only way that cryptocurrencies will ever reach their full transformative potential in society is if we make it easier for people to acquire. That's the entire vision around Easy Exchange. In 3 years, every single person in this room will be using cryptocurrency every day. The rate of technological advancement continues to accelerate. Every one of these technologies languished in obscurity before a spark propelled it into our collective consciousness. Easy Exchange is that spark, and cryptocurrency's moment has arrived. Thank you very much.